Hello everybody, God bless you. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am a prophetess Shanique Beckford, and today I will be sharing with you another episode on a prophet's diary. Before I go any further, if you have missed out on the previous episodes from the call of the prophetic, the training, the pruning, all the struggles that I have gone through, just pretty much me being transparent about my journey into what it is truly like to be called into the prophetic and the things that prophets actually do go through. If you have missed out on all of this, I want you to pause this video, go ahead, catch up on the previous episodes, and then you will come back and you'll join this. Now for today's video, I'm actually going to do a bit of a fast forward into the future. In the last episode, you guys would have actually seen how we had resigned working with our previous denomination or church rather, and we actually started our own ministry, our own church. But before I show you guys how we started this church, the great and the tremendous growth that transpired, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward just to share some things with you and be as transparent as I can with you guys on where I am currently, why I haven't been sharing or uploading any more episodes. So we're going to fast forward. I'm going to share with you some things that has happened on why I closed the church. Will I ever continue pastoring? Will I prophesy again? What am I doing with my life right now as a prophet of God? So stay tuned and we'll be right back after this. Hello everybody, welcome back to Prophet's Diary. Once again, I'm Prophetess Shanique Beckford, and today I'm going to share with you my truth, a little fast forward before we go back on what is happening in my life in terms of Prophet's Diary. What have I been going through? So as you guys can see, based on the title of today's episode, I closed the church. I walked away. I am just at a point where I'm just gonna be honest and just share some things with you. I do believe that not a lot of prophets are being transparent or being honest or being real with their journey, and so there are many, especially upcoming young prophets, who they're struggling, they're going through various things in their lives, in their ministries, and they're probably not sure if this is normal, if this is okay. Are these things that happen to actual prophets? Is it a warfare? You know, many prophets, many persons are trying to figure out where they are in life and where do they actually go from here. And so Prophet's Diary is pretty much just to sit down and be transparent with every prophet or persons in ministry so they can know exactly what it truly entails with being a prophet. Being a prophet is not just a social media phenomenon who, you know, posts on a day-to-day basis. Every day they're posting, every day they're doing live stream videos from Facebook to YouTube, and you know, no sense of accountability. They have gone through no training, no development, no pruning, no struggles. What path have they really taken to get to where they are? And you know, they're just loose cannons just all over the place. But I'm actually going to be honest and share some things with you that have actually encountered. No, just a few months ago we actually ended up closing the church. For those of you who do know, I have been pastoring at Elevation Center, and that has pretty much been my baby for the longest while. So we had two church branches actually. There was one in Kingston, well there's still one in Kingston, and there's one in Montego Bay. The branch we closed in Montego Bay was the main branch or main campus that we had a whole building for and everything. And just before I share with you guys why I ended up closing out, I just want to share with you my vision. So I don't want anyone to judge, and I guess if you do judge, it is just what it is. But my vision, my husband and I's vision for Elevation Center primarily and you know originally, and it still stands, it still exists, is that we wanted to build a church, and to build a church where people could come and feel just quite at home. People could come and just see God freely. We weren't a church that was built on, you know, traditional things like you have to dress a certain way, or you know, you can't process your hair, you can't wear trousers. We weren't about that. We were a church that wanted people to come to be comfortable, to have an atmosphere where they could truly reach out to God without being limited by protocols. Just a church where you could encounter God, you could get the true solid word of God, you can have experiences, you can grow through teachings and so much more. And what was phenomenal, or what is phenomenal about what we're trying to create is we're not just trying to create a church, we want to build a whole community. So one of the visions that we had was, aside from teaching on spiritual matters, we wanted to have somewhat of a training center where people could come and they could be taught. We were in the process and we were talking to some people, persons from the Heart Trust Foundation, actually, trying to see if they could come in to do some courses, to do some trainings. So, persons, young persons, and even older persons would be able to have the opportunity to learn a skill. So we were trying to cater to the community at large, so persons could actually come into the church and be trained in different areas aside from just spiritually. We were actually hoping that as soon as the Lord would have blessed us with our own building, we would be able to have a school, so we would not be having trainings in the church area, the church hall, but we would have an actual building, an actual space, an actual compound where we would have a training center. We wanted to have a library where our students that goes to school, they could come, they could do their SBAs at church in the library, they could do their researches, their research projects, they would have access to computers, the internet, to Wi-Fi. Not everyone has Wi-Fi access, not everyone has a working computer, especially certain persons in various communities who would need access to use a free library, free access to Wi-Fi, printing, and just pretty much learning how to use a computer, how to become more modernized with the society that we're living in. My husband had already put in place many desktops, we had laptops, we had so much that we were ready to invest into this thing. We wanted to create a job opportunities for persons who had no jobs. We wanted to build a little area where women could get back on their feet. So after going through abuse, having children, not having anywhere to stay, they had somewhere they could stay for 3 to 6 months or whatever time frame, and get back on their feet, be taught, be trained how to write a resume, how to do job interviews, how to remain steady, how to remain just focused in terms of getting their life back together. We had that in mind. We wanted to get a pool somewhere on the compound, so over the weekends our youth or adults or elders would be able to come, chill out, relax, not having to pay to go to a resort, not having to pay to go to the pool. You could come to church and you could just relax at a certain part of that compound. We wanted to do so much that would build a community, build a love, family oriented community where people could feel comfortable with themselves, comfortable with not just building themselves spiritually but holistically as a human being. And so these are some of the things we wanted to put in place, where young women would be taught how to cook in our cafeteria, would be taught how to bake in our cafeteria. These are some of the things we were actually hoping to build. We saw persons that we wanted to invest in to assist with, building houses, blessing them with cars in time to come, based on how they led, based on the behaviorism that they exemplify, the things that they have done for the church and how much they have grown. We wanted to bless people, bless families, young families, with helping them to purchase homes, young families with getting a car, So we just wanted to do so much, sending one of the lovely exemplary couple to a hotel on a vacation with their family. There's so many great ideas that we had that we just wanted to pour out of our heart, not just to give because we had it, because we're not rich, we don't have it, but we just wanted to build a community that would just just reflect the love of God, the heart of God. And so that's what we were truly about. And so we started Elevation Center and we naturally started to grow. When we originally got the space, I'm going to be inserting some pictures and videos as best as I can. It was just an empty space, an empty vacant space. That the place has been closed for several years. We were told by the owner, and so it was in a very deplorable condition. We had no floors, the walls were disgusting, deplorable, and so we had done our very best to fix as much as we can. And so then this actually happened. So the prophetic was something that I was actually used to, I was experienced and somewhat matured in. I had great understanding relating to the prophetic and preaching. In fact, I had preached over 13 parishes of Jamaica at crusades, conventions, you name it. I was there every single weekend, several days throughout the weeks, preaching on the 10 crusades and just about everywhere, doing the work of God. I've had a lot of time where I was assistant pastor, and then I was pastoring for this actual bishop before we started our ministry. So I have some level of experience in terms of pastoring. Pastoring and the prophetic, and especially pastoring and starting a church, is something that everybody wants to run down, everybody wants to chase after, and it's something that the truest of leaders or the truest of prophets would actually say, I would really want to just run away from this thing, but those without any understanding, those who have no idea what it truly feels like or it truly is to be a pastor, to be a prophet, would actually chase after it and just want to be in it, even if they're not graced and called to it. And so one of the things that I have come to learn is that some of the most stressed prophets are those who never really want to be prophet, because they know what it truly entails. And so this experience has been a bittersweet experience for me, where it has taught me so much about pastoral care, not just the prophetic but pastoral, where there are many things that pastors actually go through. And I didn't tell you guys, make sure you like, comment and subscribe. And if you see me looking down at my phone, I have some notes because I don't want to say anything I should not say, and I just want to make sure I'm going in order. All right, and this is not make-believe, or it's not just some YouTube thing or anything. That it is real life issues. As a matter of fact, I would really hope that you guys would just begin to comment in the comment section, leave me a prayer in the comment section, because I truly need all the prayers that I can get. So let's just continue, right? So I have learned so much about pastoral and pastoral care, what the church is like in general. And one of the things that I've come to learn is that it is believed that as pastors, as prophets, there are certain things that we should not share. If we are hurting, if we're struggling, these are some of the things that we should, go through or experience, encounter behind closed doors. If you're hurting, you should just, be tough, be strong enough to preach through the pain, preach through the hurt. Or if you're going to sit down, you sit and heal and you continue. But these are things that pastors don't really talk about, because how can you be so spiritual but you're going through all of this? How can you be so prophetic? How can you be so anointed but yet these things are actually happening to you? And so many persons don't speak because of maybe it is ego, maybe because it is pride. And if I may be honest, since this entire thing has happened, there were many days I wanted to share on all the things that I went through, the hurt, the disrespect, the usury, the jeering, everything that I went through at the hand of the church. And I didn't, because I felt as though I shouldn't share this. Persons are going to say you failed and you weren't truly anointed, you weren't really called for this, because if you were, then this thing would not actually happen. But then I found out that's not the real reason why I did not share. I did not share it earlier because I had to take much time to be healed before I shared and say the wrong thing or something that I should not say. And so if you are a prophet or you are a leader, if you find that speaking your truth can bless someone else, especially if you are healed and you are delivered and you're not speaking from a place of being wounded or hurt or bleeding, release your truth. There are many persons that even heal by speaking, which means that we need to begin to normalize pastoral care. When the pastor cares for everyone else, or the prophet tends and cares for everyone else, who cares for the pastor? So we need to begin to normalize pastoral care. We need to begin to normalize pastoral counseling, pastoral therapy. Who do pastors speak to? Because pastors hurt, pastors struggle, pastors go through church hurt just the same as anyone else from the pew. And so pastors are seen as persons who should be tough, strong, rigid. If you're going through it, you should not speak about it, but you should just go through it behind closed doors. Or if you are so anointed, there are certain things you will not go through. If you are truly called to being a pastor, there are certain things you must not go through, and that is not the case. And so this is why a large percentage of pastors have actually committed suicide, because they have had to bottle in and close in a lot of things that they have been going through, and they end up killing themselves. themselves. They end up going into a state of depression, preaching while being depressed, yet no one from the pew or no one from their leadership team actually recognized that something was not right. So let us normalize speaking. Speak what you are going through. Do not be afraid of criticism. Do not be afraid of being judged. Protect your mental state, protect your family, and protect your life in general. Your life is worth so much more. And so I want us to normalize this thing more than anything else. Alright? So I really wanted to share that. No, so as I said, I'm going to be just glancing at some notes. The whole experience about closing the church was just pretty much a bittersweet experience, you know. It was very bitter. It wasn't something I would have expected. It's sweet because I've learned so much. No, there are many things that pastors go through, there are many things that many pastors have gone through that has, you know, pushed them to closing the church. And for me, it got to a point where for the entire period, the entire years that I've been pastoring, there were many occasions where I felt like just walking away, but of course I did not, because you don't just walk away when something happens. You don't just walk away because the church does not go at the pace you want it to. You don't just walk away because you come into witchcraft attacks or certain things that does not go according to your favor. No, you stand and you fight for your church. You fight and you wage war in whatever way that you need to. So we have, you know, pretty much gone through the works of many things. We have gone through things that other persons have closed their church off. And so, you know, we have gone through experiences where persons have come to the church who were, you know, in high positions, and, you know, they spoke very poorly of us. I've had people that were in positions come to church, form alliances within the church, sat and spoke very ill of myself, of my husband. And, you know, visitors would come. We've had many instances where visitors would come and they would sit and hear people speak very badly about us, not because we have done bad, but just because they felt like speaking nasty things about us, you know, from their own carnal heart. And visitors that said that, you know, they would just not come back because of what they heard. We've had people that, you know, spoke down to my husband, pointed their fingers in my husband's face, you know, saying that they would never listen to him, they would never take any form of, you know, not command, but they wouldn't follow any instructions from him because he's not a Christian. And by saying that he's not a Christian, that was simply because he was not preaching, he was not on the pulpits preaching, praying in tongues, casting devils out and all of that, because this is something that, you know, church expects. This is something that the church, we believe that this is what church should be like. If the man is a pastor, then the wife has to be a prophet, or if the woman is a prophetess, then the husband has to be a pastor. We expect that both persons should be, you know, preaching and trying fire in the pulpit, and that's not the case. The man of God was never a preacher, was never someone that would preach and, you know, speak in tongues and be charismatic and all of that. He was not that person, and that's what many persons were used to. And so they said he's not a Christian because he's not doing that. But not many persons actually start to realize that without this man of God, there would actually be no church. He's the one that opens, he's the one that sets the whole sound system, the cameras. He ensures that everything is put in place. The finances are in order. He does when I say everything, I mean all I had to do was just show up, pray, show up, look pretty, stay in the presence of God and preach the word. That's all I had to do. He did everything else, and no one saw what he was doing. And so that, you know, that hurt him in so many instances where many days he just did not want to come back to church, and he just did not want to have anything to do with church. So, and this is why the church is so dysfunctional, because people have this perception of what they believe a pastor and a pastor's wife is supposed to look like, or what a church is supposed to look like. And so we put people to fill into positions. We put people to fill in for certain vacant positions within the church, whether they are called or whether they are called to that office or not. So they have no functionality, no grace, no calling for a certain position, but they fit them in because this is what looks good, this is what fits social media, this is what we are accustomed or used to. And so someone is now functioning in an office that they're not called to, and so this is why the church has become so dysfunctional. If you are a drummer, you've never played a keyboard in your life, there's no way you can play the keyboard. If you're called to be a teacher, there's no way you can be filling in as a pastor. If you are an evangelist, there's no way you can can be filling in as an apostle. And so this was something that hurt him very much, because persons did not respect who he was as my husband within the church, and that was a problem. But you know, those persons left eventually, and we continued. At that point, we could have closed out and walk away, but that did not warrant us leaving any at all. So we continued the work of the Lord. Now, the main thing that happened, the first thing that actually happened, was we had a Jezebel attack. So we went through all of that. We went through situations where our health was tremendously affected, especially my health was tremendously affected. We taught the people, you know, what position, what it is that they were called to, how to operate in that functionality. We did everything that, you know, we could possibly do to have a friendly church, a healthy church. And then we got hit by a whole Jezebel. Now, with this happening, there was I think I've shared this before actually, but there's a particular lady that has been with us since the conception of our ministry, from the previous ministry rather. She came over with us, and she was, you know, very faithful. Someone that assisted in every single area. If anything you needed to get done, she was the go-to person. Whatever it was, she was the go-to person. Very helpful. And you know, I grew to love this woman very dearly. And it did not even dawn on me any at all that, you know, she was someone that could possibly have a Jezebel spirit. The church that she had, the church that she was a member of prior to coming to us, I had ministered in that church before, and the only thing that was said about her was that, you know, she is extremely jealous. Other than that, she's fine, just extremely jealous. And of course I paid that no mind, you know. She was, but it wasn't in a way that, you know, was seriously bad or anything. And it actually gets good. I need you guys to stay tuned. It gets really good. So eventually she became very helpful. A lot of youth in the church were actually staying with her, to the point where there was a little bit of a clique that was forming in the church. And the moment I saw it, you know, I started to try to just nip it in the bud. At first I thought she was helpful. If you really needed somewhere to stay, you were homeless, you were helpless, her house was the place to stay. And perhaps I was blinded at first. It was my first time actually pastoring my own ministry, so I just felt that she was just extremely helpful, and that was good. She was a mother, like a mother figure within the church. And there were a lot of females, some persons that were staying at her house, and you know, she came with a lot of people to the church, as a matter of fact. And just to fast forward a little bit, it got to a particular point where she became, you know, somewhat jealous, where, you know, she had stopped tithing, and she actually said from her own mouth that she stopped tithing because apparently I was not giving her the time of day, I was not paying her any attention. And you know, I heard some things like I had other people in the office and I was talking about her behind her back, which absolutely made no sense. It was just coming from a place of jealousy, you know. And then eventually one day I had a phone call, a very mysterious phone call, where one of my spiritual daughters, she started to confess something. She was staying at her house and she left, and she was sharing some things with me that was being said about myself and my husband. Now, you know, several occasions I had a dream that my dirty underwear were at that house, and I, you know, was trying to figure out why would my underwear rather be at their house on the floor. Not dirty underwear, but my underwears were actually at their house in the ground, in the mud, just dirty, messy. And you know, that's not good. And I prayed about it, but when she called me and she began to, you know, share some things that were being said, and her calling me and exposing the things that were being said about me, she was also confessing that she said some very terrible things as well. And perhaps she was confessing because they threatened that they would speak or they would expose her, because there was a great falling out when she left and they were about to expose her. So she called me first to confess what she said and expose what they said. No, just there were many things. There were many messy things that was said. One of the things that was said was apparently these people are always dreaming. So one of the things that was said was that, you know, the lady, she's a big woman, by the way, like a really big woman. She could have probably been my mother and more. And she somehow had a dream. Let me take a sip for this one. Hey. She had a dream that my husband was beating me, abusing me, beating me badly. And that's what they were rumoring, that my husband was beating me. Of course, that was not happening any at all. It was a dream that they had. So the young girl, my spiritual daughter, then confessed that the lady said that my husband was beating me. And just a whole lot of messy, nasty things that I would not dare say on YouTube, or I could not just repeat from my mouth. I can't just repeat those things. And so it was really bad. The nature of the things that were said was bad. We had to call a meeting. And so all of them came together that were living there, came together, and this big lady, apparently they wanted to fight my spiritual daughter, because of the things that she was about to expose, or some things were happening with them. I have no idea about it. And it's just amazing that you would see these things happening in the church. And I'm by no means sharing this for anyone to say this is why I won't go to church, this is why I don't want to be a part of a church. Not everybody in the church is like this. There are some people that will always be in the church that will be carnal, that will be messy, but not everyone in the church is like that. And we do not condone, we do not uphold to any of this slackness. And so the moment I found out what was truly happening, I called a meeting and we began to discuss everything that was happening. Now in the meeting, it was said that the lady said that she had a dream, and I was just questioning, if you had a dream like that, that you dreamt that my husband was beating me, perhaps you should have come to me or prayed about it. And then it was said that she told the other young woman, as a big woman, I was not expecting that from her, but she told all the other young people that were staying with her from the church that she was actually in a car with my husband, and my husband actually confessed to her that I did not come to church one Sunday, not because I was sick, but because he beat me and I could not come to church. I looked at my husband in the meeting, and I looked at him and he looked at me, and my husband looked at her and said, did I ever tell you that? And she said no. So then my question was, how are you guys rumoring that my husband told you that he beat me and I couldn't come to church on a Sunday to preach? It was all a lie. Someone made it up. I'm not sure if it was the lady that I loved. I'm not sure if it was one of my spiritual daughters. I'm not sure how, but someone said that. Then my spiritual daughter began to say that my spiritual daughter said that my husband's belly was too big and he would not, she was married, by the way. I'm telling you about a girl that I loved. I baptized her. I did her wedding for her. I officiated her wedding ceremony. I just loved her. I saw so much potential in her, and I was just there to help her in whatever way. As a matter of fact, I think probably days or weeks before everything happened, she needed a house because she was staying at this Jezebel lady house and she needed somewhere to stay. And we were driving her around Montego Bay trying to help her to find a house for herself and her husband. Out of my time, I found the time to buy gas, drive her around town to help her find somewhere. And this is how they were killing us, behind closed doors. So these are things that pastors go through and you would have no idea. And apparently she was saying, even though she was married, she was saying that she would not be in a relationship with someone like my husband because his belly is too big. The man of God belly is not too big, guys, but she said his belly is too big, and apparently because his belly is big, she could not be in a relationship with him because there's no way that he could give her a proper, how should I put this, a proper sexual position back way, because his belly would get in the way and maybe his sexual organ is too small or something. Guys, how do church people find the time to sit and think on these things? And not just think on these things because the devil will tell you things in your mind, but process and say these filthy things from their mouth about a past that you claim that you love. These people said they love me to the floor that I walk on. So these are some of the things that they were actually, saying about us. They spoke about our son. Our son is 3 years old, still 3 years old. They spoke about him, that his teeth were messed up, and he had this condition where milk affected his teeth. They came down that way and they spoke that his teeth were, messed up. I don't know what it is. How do you talk about a 3-year-old? And they said that I loved my son more than any other child from the church because apparently they invited us to their house to a birthday party for some kid I don't know about. we did not go because we weren't available. Either way, we are not your friends. Your pastor is not your friend. Your prophet is not your friend. I don't want to be at your house. Like, it just did not make sense. There was no way I wanted to be at your house in that area that you are from. I'm not your friend. And you know, so they just sat and spoke about all these things, that I treat my child like he's better than someone else because they invited us to a party and we did not go, and they didn't want to invite us anyway. So why did you invite us if you didn't want to invite us anyway? So you know, these are some of the things that were said about us behind closed doors, and you know, it really hurt me, because we actually have all of this recorded, by the way. Everything that I'm saying was recorded while the meeting was there. It was being recorded on a computer. And so it was just amazing to me that whole people would sit and say these things after, you know, you brought them through deliverance, you helped them through counseling, you prayed with them, you prophesied, you just helped in so many ways. I would have never assumed that these people were slandering us, creating spiritual altars, witchcraft altars against us behind closed doors. I had no idea that this would have actually happened. Now, after everything was said and done in that meeting, we prayed, we forgave, and we moved on, because that's what we do as a church, as a body. As a prophet, prophets tend to be seen as, you know, stern, strict, you know, a little bit on the rough side, but they're also very loving people. They're also very merciful people, gracious people. And so we prayed. I prayed in that meeting, and you know, we moved on. The Jezebel lady was about to affect or attack the other persons on the praise team that she felt as though I was close to, that were, you know, taking me away from her. And you know, I had to speak to her about that. If you destroy the praise team, then there's no praise team left in the church, because we would have to, you know, it was just so messy. And my daughter, she was a part of the praise team. She was a leader on the praise team, and she served as, I think, president in the youth ministry. And you know, I sat her down, we prayed. I said to her, listen, you can still I'm not removing you from anything, but however, you need to sit down and just reevaluate everything that you have done, where you are spiritually, and then, you know, we'll talk and you can continue to do what you're doing, but you need to sit down for a while, which is expected. And you know, I told her I loved her just the same. We prayed, and I don't know, but I just felt this love of God in my heart, and I was willing to forgive, and we prayed, and we were willing to just move on. By the time we prayed and got outside in the reception area of the church, thankfully no one else was there. A huge fight broke out in the church. When I saw this fight broke out in the church, instantly it dawned on me that, listen, this is going to upset God to the utmost, and this is not good. There's no way you can break out a fight in the house of God. My prophet self just went through the roof. I was mad, I was pissed, and I still said to her, okay, go home, pray, you will come back to church. She said she was never going to come back to church. I said, no, there's purpose in you, and this is what the devil wants to destroy you. You're going to come back to church. We're going to grow past this, and we're going to just do the work of God in this church. The devil will not break you guys. And you know, I loved her. We moved on, and she came back to church about maybe 2 weeks after, and I was loving on her like nothing happened. I just forgot everything happened, and I moved forward. She just stopped coming. Perhaps she felt guilty. I'm not sure why she stopped coming, but she just stopped. As I said, a lot was said that I would not dare mention on this platform, and you know, it broke us, but we moved on. One of the things I had to be very mindful of was not letting this thing spill over to the church. A lot of people were very offended by these people because of what their mannerism was like in the church. They weren't necessarily nice people to everybody, and so people would come that would not come back because of how they treated them or how they looked. And so I had to be mindful and very careful and prayerful that this would not spill over into the church, because mind you, there were many persons in the church, numbers of people in the church, that if they heard about this kind of chaotic drama, they would not probably want to be a part of the church. And this is not something that we are upholding. This is not something we are about. We are building a friendly church, a God-oriented church, a church of love, a church of family. And so we had to try to nip it in the bud as soon as we found out about it, because that's not what we are about. I'm not trying to build a ghetto church. These people were acting ghetto as hell, and that was not about that life. We don't discriminate where anybody is from. You can come from the ghetto, but you don't have to be ghetto and rude and carnal and messy and like the devil himself. And so I was not about that life. That was not the church I was trying to build. If you guys know me, no ma'am, no sir. So we had to make sure that we dealt with it before, you know, it spilled over into the church and anyone else actually found out about it. And it got bad. I literally had to just tell a few persons, don't come back, just do not come back. Why we did that? They were not willing to change. These people were being delivered day after day, vomiting day after day. There was no change. They were threatening to attack other people in the church. It wasn't my church, it was God's church. But if we did not handle it at that point, these people would have just wrecked the entire church before it would have happened. Or I don't know. Guys, leave a comment for me in the comment section. Leave a prayer for me rather in the comment section. I've been through it. But you know, she left. We got rid of that Jezebel lady. She left and she took a large portion of persons. Everyone that came with her and everyone that she pulled into her little coven, she took all of those persons. We had to start over where musicians were concerned, getting help with the rest of persons that were left on the praise team. We just had to start over with so much. We had a breakaway with the church, a large portion of people left. And then right after that happened, then we were actually hit with the pandemic. We did not get any time to recover the whole Jezebel thing and everything, and then we got hit by the pandemic. So then the pandemic hit us. Right after the whole Jezebel attack and everything happened, we had to pray seriously so it wouldn't mess or break the church in a worse way. The pandemic hit us. No, we were, as a church, as a body, we were, you know, we were growing. I do believe, at least I thought we were growing. We had a lot of people, and you know, when we had conferences, we were sitting over 130, 40 people possibly. The church was growing. We were doing well financially. Also, we were doing well. We were definitely able to cover all our expenses. Considering that we were, you know, a little over 2 years old, we were doing pretty well, I would say. Then the pandemic hit us. Or should I quote? When the pandemic hit us, we were not able to, you know, have church. If you are in Jamaica, you will understand that we had no movement days on Sundays for a long period. There were many persons that lost their jobs. There are many persons that also lost their faith. So by now, after losing so many persons from the whole Jezebel scenario to persons losing faith, a few persons, you know, just losing their faith in general, some persons losing their job, not being able to travel to church, not just because they had no money, but because they could not travel. It was a no movement day issued by the government. So we had a point in time where we were able to have about 12 persons at church, and we had 12 persons coming, from our leadership team to our intercessors to the praise and worship personnel. And we were there for a while, and of course, because we weren't able to cover our expenses, because we could not have church as regular night church or anything at all. And so, you know, for several months, my husband and I would, for quite some time, my husband and I was actually, you know, paying the rent, the light, the water, everything from our own pocket. Our rent was 80,000 Jamaican dollars, and I think that is $850. That's $850 actually, which includes light, electricity, and water. It does not include internet. It does not include paying musicians. So we were paying $850 every month from our own pocket. That was about $126,000 to $130,000 every month from our own pocket. Of course, there's no way that my husband and I, we're pretty young. I'm not even 30 years old as yet. You know, there's no way we could have continued to do that from our own finances, our own pockets. We had a toddler, you know, we have our own lives. And so strategically, one of the things that affected me was, you know, persons thinking that we could not manage a church, or we could not run a church, or we could not maintain a church, or we did not have wisdom enough to run a church. Because that was I think someone someone had actually said that within our church, that the church had no wisdom, and that hurt me because we have been doing so well up before the pandemic, and throughout the pandemic we started to cover what we could have covered until we couldn't do it anymore. So then strategically we prayed and we saw the Lord, and we spoke to everyone that was there, because we know the people that come to church, we know what they could possibly try to do or not to do. And so we made a proposal to the church. Okay, hey guys, if everyone can give 2,000 Jamaican dollars at the end of the month, because these were people that were working and these were people that were able to help. If you can give $2,000 per month, and that's like maybe $15 per month, then that could help us. That would cover a portion, and then we would put the other larger portion to cover, so we will not have to owe or become indebted to someone. Of course, we did not get the help. I think we got help for 1 month. It wasn't what we really asked for. And then by the second month, we had no help any at all. So we had to speak to our landlord, and he allowed us to continue to come, and we would owe, because of course we were in a pandemic. So he allowed us to just owe. We were owing for so many months. We were in a pandemic for almost, maybe, is it 2 years? A little over 2 years, I'm not sure. And so we were owing for several months. Can you imagine owing $850,000 or $800 for several months? In no time we were owing over 500,000 Jamaican dollars. We kept asking the people, guys, can you help us? $2,000 per month, $15 per month. We were still not getting the help, but I was still preaching, I was still laboring, I was still praying for persons, I was still doing house calls, going to pray for persons who were sick, to pray for persons who were going through whatever. I was still showing up and doing the utmost. Then it got to a point where I was talking to my pastor, and throughout all of this I've been talking to my pastor, sharing with my spiritual fathers everything that has been going on, seeking spiritual advice and spiritual counsel while I'm still praying to God, and talking with my husband, of course. And we were told eventually, by now we were owing $800 and something thousand, approaching $1 million Jamaican, and we were still not getting the help. I still love the people. I didn't take offense to. I wondered why no one was helping us, and I thought that okay, the Jezebel persons left. She took who she wanted to take, and the right people are not remaining. But then I was not getting help, and I was trying to figure out why wasn't I getting any form of help, and it didn't bother me. We said we will move on. It's just $800 and something thousand, which is a lot of money, by the way. But I thought that's nothing. It's almost $1 million, but I thought that's nothing. I spoke to my pastor. Prophet said, okay, I remember when we didn't have a church space anymore, we had to use a hotel. He suggested a hotel, so we started to use a hotel. When we got to the hotel, I still shared with the people. I said, guys, we still have to cover the rent that we owe. We still have to cover all the expenses that we are owing. We need your help, guys. If it's $1,000 per month, if it's $2,000 per month, whatever you can give. Sometimes we have to sacrifice. If you love these people were telling me every day, Prophetess, we love you so much. We love you. We respect you. We honor you. We appreciate you, because people had no food. I was giving food. People had no clothes, I was giving clothes. People wanted help to pay whatever it was, I was helping in so many ways. But yet we were not getting that help. And this is where it began to boil down. This thing started to affect me, because our landlord that we had was starting to call us and just totally bother us that we needed to pay. We were not getting the help. We were using a hotel that was much cheaper. It was a little bit half than the price of what we were paying before, much cheaper. And I thought, oh my, why didn't I tell my pastor exactly what was happening earlier, or why didn't he suggest this before? So I thought, we could survive at the hotel. When I got to the hotel, these people were still not really giving, and this is something I want to share. It was never about giving. It was never about money. It had nothing to do with money. But in order for you to have a church, there has to be some form of foundation or structure where finances is concerned to keep the church afloat. Before the pandemic, everybody was, people would tithe, people would give whatever it is freely. You give unto the Lord freely, you tithe unto the Lord freely. And this is what keeps the church afloat. So those who say that you should not give your money to the church, whatever it is, the money that is given to church keeps the church afloat. Not to allow pastor to build expenses, houses, or anything like that. So just to share a little bit of wisdom. And so we were still there and we weren't getting the help to cover there, and so it started to get to a point where for several months we had to be covering the hotel from our own pockets. So this was now really beginning to affect us. My health was being affected tremendously because I was owing. This man was bothering me for his money, and you know, I was not getting the help in the church. I felt as though it was going downhill. I saw the church going downhill, but I was fighting to hold on to it, fighting literally to hold on to it. So here we are at the hotel, and eventually, a matter of fact, when we closed the church, we had so many things. We had 100 and probably 150 chairs that we had to, you know, try to get to be stored at our house, in the shed behind our house, the storage area at our house, at different locations. We had to store so many things from our office. We had gone through so much, and it was so sad. It was very sad that we would not get the help that we truly wanted. When we just started the church, you know, the praise team would complain that they can't hear themselves. We bought several speakers. We bought probably over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 speakers so that they could, you know, truly hear themselves. At first they said that they were hot and the heat was affecting their sinuses. We bought several AC units, and then they complained that they were too cold. Like, we went the extra mile to just ensure that the church was comfortable, that everybody was as comfortable as they could be in the house of God. We did what we needed to do, and we just didn't understand why we wouldn't get the help. I'm not sure. I'm going to share with you why none of these things happened and why it got to this point. But eventually we started, when the country opened, we were able to have church again. We went back to our Kingston location. So when the country opened up, we were now able to travel back and forth to Kingston and to continue the location we had in Kingston. In Kingston, we do not have our own actual church space. We do hope that, you know, we will be blessed with that very soon. But there's a church in Kingston that we're able to use as rental per day, so we can use it whenever we want to, and that's fine. And so we started having revival meetings in Kingston, and I was slowly watching Elevation Center of Montego Bay go down to shreds to nothing while we were building and just having a blast in Kingston. Revival in Kingston was so powerful. I was praying all night for several days. I was just staying in the presence of God, and in Montego Bay, nothing was happening. I had people in Kingston calling me, wanting to volunteer because we needed a lot of altar workers. We needed people that would take up papers from the floor, and people were vomiting and throwing up and devils were being expelled. We had people that wanted to do the messy work, to clean the vomits from the floor, to hold people, to clean, to set up, to arrange. We had people wanting to do the messy stuff in Kingston. They just wanted to serve God and seek God in Kingston. May God bless Kingston's heart. And we went, we labored, we had a wonderful time in Kingston. I remember this one particular weekend, and this is the life of a prophet. It's like swinging the pendulum. It's like you're on an emotional roller coaster. You are one day on the mountaintop slaying the prophets of Baal, and then in a matter of no time, Jezebel wants your head. And so this is what happened. We went to Kingston. We had 2 days of revival in Kingston. The power of God was amazing. It was just amazing. And if you know anything about prophets, they love the presence of God. They love intercession. They loved worship. And that's what we did in Kingston. And so I left Kingston that Saturday. We were there Thursday, Friday. I came home back to Montego Bay on Saturday. I was still on fire for God. I was on fire for God. I had prepared a whole sermon to come and preach in Montego Bay. I was about to lay hands on everybody. I wasn't getting the help that I needed. Maybe they thought that they were helping, but truly they weren't. And if they were, then God bless their heart. Maybe they tried their best. But I'm sure that someone could have helped us. At least one person could have given $2,000. But I came and I was willing to lay hands on everyone so that they could get more promotions. People were getting promotions. People were being promoted to managers, supervisors, bank managers. People were getting, building houses, buying cars. People were doing so much, but they could not give anything back to the church. No, I'm going to share some valuable things with you guys before we go any further. every pastor does not go through the same thing. Every prophet does not go through the same thing. What I went through, someone else may not go through. Someone else may go through something else. Because I closed the church did not mean I failed. Perhaps I'm going to share some more things with you guys. I want you to hold on a second. Some powerful things. Just hold on a second. If you're holding on, put it in the comment section. I'm holding on a second. I'm holding on a second. No, I came back to Montego Bay, you know, loving the people, just loving them like, you know, nothing was wrong. Came to church on Sunday. Before I got to church on Sunday, I was told that the praise and worship leader said she could not lead because she was not in a good place, whether mentally, spiritually, I'm not sure, but she wasn't in a good place. And I understood, that was fine. The other lady that was on the praise team, I said to her, can you lead? And she said, yes, of course, no problem. When I got to church on Sunday, and I felt as though for quite some time, there was a thing with the praise team where one person was not getting the help from the other person. I had to ask someone else from another church to come and help us on Sundays, because it seemed like my two ladies from the praise and worship, they did not want to do it, so I had to get help to come in. That's how I felt. And so when I got to church on Sunday, the person said she would be doing worship. When I got there, we had visitors, we had people coming. And please understand that by now we're at a hotel. We do not have a lot of people. Our membership is probably down to maybe 15, maybe 20 persons, maybe, I'm not sure if that much. And so, you know, we're just trying to build back after the pandemic. A lot of churches were hit, but we were truly hit. And you know, I wouldn't have never given up on the church. I was still owing pretty much almost $1 million. Our membership was down to nothing. We had no help. We had no hope of moving forward. I was still holding on. The Bible says, if you can be faithful over a few, I will make you ruler over many. If you can be faithful over the few things that God have given to you. And I was still holding on. When I got to church that Sunday on fire to preach, lay hands, deliver, prophesy, the person that was supposed to do praise and worship went up there. She did not want to sing. She acted as though she had no idea she was going to be singing. She did not want to do it. Everything about her gesticulation, her facial expressions, everything was totally off. It seemed like something was wrong with her voice and she was not singing. I went up there. It looked bad. It looked really bad. I went up there and I tried to help her. The song that she was singing, if you guys know anything about me, I can't sing, and I can't sing to save my life. I went up there with my can't sing self and I tried to assist her. I sounded terribly awful. I sounded so awful. I sounded bad. I can't exaggerate it anymore, but I sounded very horrible. Very horribly. And then even the keyboard part, the guy that was playing the keyboard, he could not even play because of how I was singing. He could not find the tone I was singing or the pitch or whatever. He could not play with me. I was that bad. He couldn't play. So everything was just all over the place. It was chaotic. It was, the presence of God was not there. It was just not okay. And you know, I sounded very horrible. And my main praise and worship person that said that she was not in a good place, she was standing there at the front and she was singing loudly, melodiously. Her voice is like the sound of 10,000 angels. She can sing. And she was there singing very loudly. And I was up there with the other person not singing. I was singing, making a terribly fool of myself. The visitors were looking at me like, why isn't the praise and worship leader singing, and why does prophetess sound like that? Why is prophetess humiliating and embarrassing herself like that? Why does she not want to sing? And why is she down there singing so beautifully and not up there? I've never felt so humiliated. I dropped the mic, not because I was humiliated, but I felt it in the core. As I said, I knew the church was coming to a place of non-existence. But when I humiliated myself that Sunday with visitors and people looking at me with, they were looking at me, some were looking at me with great disgust, some were looking at me with pity, some were looking at me as though, oh God, I'm sorry for you, oh God, why did my prophet? Oh God, but now come back, like so much. Their faces were saying so much. I put the mic down on the thing and I went to the back of the church and sat. I no longer had an office at the hotel. I was humbled to no longer have an office. It was just one little room at a conference room at a hotel. And I went to the back and I put a shawl thing, a rug or something over my head, and I just started to weep. I sat around there and I started to weep. And I remember a woman, some some persons apparently came and they were there, you know, just praying for me, just praying me up. I was round the back and I was weeping. I wept. And I remember this prophetess lady that was there, when she took the mic and she started to pray, and she laid on her belly and she began to pray. One of the things she began to pray about was, Lord, I'm praying that you do not take her away from us. She was praying that God would not take me away from them. And when I heard it, it's like something broke in me, and I cried. Guys, my balling up. Visitors were there. I was trying to build back the church, you know, and it was a big humiliation. My balls were tail. My ball, man, I cried. And I did feel it bad. And anyways, we left church that day. I came home, had no appetite to eat for the entire week, you know. For most of the days in that week, I was broken, crying. You know, I put myself together, prepared a word to go and preach the other Sunday. This is where it got bad. Every Sunday after that, I prepared a word to go and preach, and I couldn't. But let me backtrack a little bit. What hurt me, what profits, let me make this a teachable moment rather. I just slayed devils in Kingston on Friday and Thursday, preached, prophesied, called names. It was phenomenal. I was on the mountaintop and I had no time to sit and celebrate and say, yeah, me prophesied, me cast devils out. It was powerful. I had no time to sit in victory. By the time I came down from Kingston to Montego Bay, I went through humiliation. And it reminded me of Elijah. He just slew over 450 prophets of Baal. By the time he came down from that mountain, Jezebel said that she was going to kill him and feed him to the dogs. He had no time to gloat and to feel as though he did this. And so prophets, God will deal with your emotions. God will deal with you before he allows any pride to come. He's going to deal with you. And so I went through that. I don't know if I was going to have any sense of pride because of, you know, what I was doing. I didn't have any, but maybe I would. And so God allowed me to be humiliated in the worst of ways. Or maybe I was trying to fight to hold on to a church that, you know, was not going to work. And so anyways, you know, I forgot about it. I moved on. I spoke to the praise team. I said, guys, you have to help. They were willing to help and to continue. One of the things that I never liked was, don't be a yes person to your pastor or your prophet. If you know you can't do something, say, pastor, I can't do it. And I've always taught and teach these people these things. If I tell you to jump and you know you can't jump, don't tell me you can't jump. If I ask you to do something in the church and you really know you can't do it or you don't want to do it, tell me you can't do it. But don't say, yes, pastor, yes. Yeah, well, of course. And then you can't show up or you don't show up. Don't do that. Let's be honest. I mean, if you can't, you can't. I can't keep you for that. You're a person. And you know, I love them. I said, okay, if you're going through something, take your time. She took time. I got someone else from another church to come and help. And you know, she continued after a while. But it seemed as though nobody really wanted to do anything. And so I prepared my sermon to go and bless them every Sunday. But every Sunday I got to church, I broke down into tears. My husband became upset and he kept saying to me, don't cry and let people see you. Stop crying and let people see. But every time I got to church with the hopes and the desire, you know, the passion to preach the word of God to the people, as soon as I got there, it's like there was the presence of God was no longer there. And it's like as soon as I saw the people, it's like the Spirit of the Lord was grieving on the inside of me, and the only thing I could do was just weep. And so for weeks I wondered how any of these people did not see that their prophetess, their pastor was not okay. Nobody saw I wasn't okay. Which was crazy for me. And you know, every Sunday I showed up to church, I would just cry. The Spirit of the Lord was not there. I was broken. I prepared to preach passionately. I was willing to preach to these people, but by the time I got to church, I just wept. My husband kept saying to me, don't cry, let them see you. Don't show people your weakness. Don't let anybody abuse your tears or your weakness. But every time I got there, even though I wanted to preach and bless them, I just cried. For weeks I was crying, and nobody saw that their pastor was not okay. I was not okay any at all. I was broken and I was hurt. I was broken because I did not want to be bitter against them. I did not want to be bitter against God or to the people. I wanted to love them just the same way. But it got to a point where I said, we have to close. There's no way that we could have continued. And so we had a meeting. And I told them that we were going to close. Upon having that meeting, the first thing that happened was, while sharing with them why we're closing, even though we've shared this with them numerous times that we can't continue without financial help or, you know, help in general with praise and worship with certain things, My daughter came off, which was sad for me because, you know, I loved her. When I say I loved her, she remained. A few other persons remained from the Jezebel situation. She remained, and I loved her. There were two of them particularly. I loved them. I still love them. Some days I still hope that they would call me, or I don't know how to express it. But, you know, she left, we had the meeting, we closed out, and I said, you know, if anybody still wants to help, you can still feel free to help, because I mean, of course, we've been there with you guys for years. I've helped you for years. I've seen how you have grown. I see how God has blessed you. You know, we labor together, we build together. So I thought that, you know, maybe they would still help after we really closed. We closed perhaps about 2 or 3 months, maybe, I'm not sure. And to this day that I'm recording the video now, I've not had one person from the church call me. Guys, we have closed months ago, and I have not had one single person from the church call me and say, "Prophetess, oh God." I've had several persons that were visiting from another church. They said that they were members, but they were members of another church, but they loved the church so much, and they were people that helped me to some extent. And we couldn't continue with people from another church because I'm not going to steal anybody's members, or I'm not about that life. And so people that were part of my church, my membership, our membership, and don't take me wrong, I know it's God, but I know it's God's people, but to this day, I've not had one, my daughters, my leaders, I have not had one person that has called myself or my husband to say, "We're so sorry, couldn't work out. We appreciate the years of service that you have done." I think we've had one pastor's appreciation with the Jezebel lady did it. And you know, we've not had any form of appreciation or anything like that really, and that was fine, because I mean, we were there on our anniversaries, on our birthdays. We were always at church. We took no time for ourselves. We were always laboring for them, so we learned a lot. But one of the things that broke me then, because I'm totally healed now, right? But one of the things that broke me then was nobody called. Even to this day, nobody called to say, "Pastor, you know, we're sad. Can we still have meetings once per month? Then can we have conferences? Can we do something in Montego Bay?" Nobody called. One of my daughter called. One. Had two of them left that I really loved. One called, and she called to say, "Oh, you know, I'm going to go to this church now." Then I was so hurt, and I was so hurting then. I just hung the phone up. No, I didn't hang up. I said to her, "You know, the funny thing, after everything I've been through, I was never rude to anybody. I should have hung up, but I didn't. I was never rude to anybody." I said to her, "Okay, I'm in a car. I'm going to drop my son off at school. Let me talk back to you. Call me back." She never called back. I never called back. But we never spoke. No, I've spoken to nobody from the church, which is crazy. Nobody cared. Nobody cared if we were in debt. Nobody cared what we were giving, how we were slaving ourselves for them, what we were giving. Nobody cared any at all. We had no help, and nobody cared. I thought that the wrong people left with the Jezebel lady and the right people remained, but we had nobody. And so that was something that, you know, it broke me for days. I was weeping for days. I had serious pre-hypertension. I had mad high blood pressure, dizzy. I was going through everything, going to the doctors. I was so broken because I couldn't understand, how did I give so many years to this church and these people, and there was nobody to say, "Okay, prophetess, pastor, where I know you're not doing this thing for man to please man, or for man's recognition or man's love or anything." But I couldn't understand how, you know, we were there. I brought some women to lunch. We had movies. I was on the phone talking to people, went to visit them at their homes to do home checkups, prayers or whatever. Like, I've just done so much with people, and like nobody cared. What broke us and what drove me, I was in a state of depression. I was in a state of depression. Depression is not something that is light. What pushed me to that place of depression was my husband and I were hurting because we are in debt. We are still in debt. We still owe hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when we told these people that we were going to close, automatically persons came off the meeting that we were having. Nobody called, and then there were persons that deleted us, like from Facebook. They left our church groups, who blocked us, probably blocked us. Like, people blocked us. People are starting to say they could say things, but they don't want to say things. People are now saying the worst of the worst. And I can't understand. People are saying that they're hurt because we closed the church. But what I could not understand was how people were hurt that we closed the church, but nobody wanted to help us to keep it going. How is it that people are saying they're hurt because we closed the church? Wasn't myself and my husband hurt? That's what I've been trying to understand for the entire time, for the months that I just took some time, and I was trying to figure out, do you guys not think that we are hurt to be walking away from this? And so I struggled with depression. I saw depression coming full on. I was in a state of depression, and I had to fight myself out of depression because I thought, as a pastor, there's no way you can be going through depression. As a pastor, you have to beat this. And I said to myself, I'm casting devils. Kingston revival in Kingston was powerful. I was casting devils out. I was prophesying, calling names. I was deep in the vein of God. But in the midst of all of that, I was still hurting. I was trying to ask myself, I was saying to myself, I've casted out depression out of people, and it was a spirit that led them to suicide. And there were days I felt like taking my own life. There were days I felt like taking my own life, where I had to sit with my husband and say, babe, I don't think I'm going to make it. Probably it's better I die, because I was in a state of, I failed. The church is closed. I failed. I did something wrong. I must have done something wrong. Why these people did not care about us? Why these people did not help us? Why we are in so much debt? Where did I go wrong? I felt as though I failed and I did something wrong. I, just like Elijah, cursed the day that I was born. I begged God to take my life. I sat and I imagined taking pills. I told my husband, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I need to go to the hospital. I was in a state of complete depression. My son is 3 years old, and I've had days I've had days where, I didn't want to cook. I was, laughing and happy watching movies with my husband, and I would just get up and go to the bathroom and say, babe, I'm using the bathroom number 2, and I would stay in there and I would bawl for 30 minutes and come out. I would just break down crying just sporadically throughout the day. And I fought not going into depression. Maybe I was in it, I don't know. I felt like I was in depression, but I kept saying to myself, you can't be a prophetess and in depression. It's a spirit. You can't get demon possessed as a pastor. And so I fought this thing. I said, no man, I fought depression. I fought with my life. And then many days I wanted to just die because I struggled with saying I was a failure. And then I learned that, I didn't fail. Maybe these people failed God, but I didn't fail. I did my very best. I did everything that I could have done. I've never took church money to, better myself, to buy fancy days. I've never been that type of person. We had a vision. I shared with you guys earlier my vision, which still stands, because we are going to do this thing with the help of God. And I've never made this about me. We've never made this about us, I don't ever want to see somebody being hurt. And even while I was hurting, I still never wanted them to hurt. And it took my husband, who is a strong figure in my life, that said, you're hurting yourself, your health is not in a good place. And even though these people do not honor you, do not respect you, a prophet is never honored in his country, and these people have nothing called honor, you are still trying to do the utmost for these people. And he said, no, you have to stop. I spoke with my pastor, and he said, no, you have to stop. So we eventually closed. And then one of the things that I learned was that sometimes you have to stop to realize, you have to stop in order for you to go forward. Then I realized that I was building alone. I had all these people, but I was building alone. It took closing the church to realize that all this time I had a church, I was building alone and there was nobody. I realized that when we had the church, I had a lot of, if I had a conference, we had 150 people at basically all our conferences. We had School of the Prophets. We had over 50-something persons graduated. About 47 to 50 plus people graduating from our School of the Prophets. We had a large membership, but then I realized that growth is not in numbers. Growth has nothing to do with numbers. Growth has to do with maturity, loyalty, and honesty. And so if I had 2 persons that were honest, mature, and that were loyal, that would have been growth and not numbers. So I had to learn these things along the way, and I hope that this will be a blessing. I will teach you something. Growth is not in numbers. It's a state of maturity, spiritual spiritually, emotionally, and holistically as a human being. So I had to recognize that. And until this day, I keep saying, if I could have found one person, if I could have found one person in that little bit of congregation that was left after the pandemic, I would have stayed. If I had two persons or one person or part of the church that I could have literally worked with, I would work with that one person for 5 years, 10 years, until God sent the crowds, and that would be fine. I would be humble enough to do it, but I searched and I could not find one person to build with. So this is why I closed the church. I had no help. We were building alone. We were not growing any at all. I was preaching, teaching. If anybody knows me, I love to teach. I love to teach. I love to teach. I'm always teaching the word of God. There are Sundays I prefer to teach than to actually preach. And I love to preach as well, but I love to teach more than anything else. But there was no growth. There was no growth. And I had people that would tell me every single day, Pastor, I love you. Boy, you're one of the best pastors I ever have. But at the same time, it was just lip service and there was nothing. My daughters that I thought, were, truly there with me, I taught them, they really grew spiritually. But everybody left. I'm not sure why my daughters, I don't know if they're upset with me. If you're watching, are you upset or are you hurt? I'm not sure what happened. I mean, you don't have to respond. I'm just saying. But, but the main reason why I closed was I was hurting. The Spirit of the Lord was not there. We wanted to build back the church and to come back into, renting a space, leasing a space. Eventually, we wanted to buy and build based on the vision I shared with you guys. But we had people that were coming, like lovely people in society that were coming, that wanted to be a part of the ministry. And I had people that consistently kept telling me, if it was not for you, I would not come to your church. If it wasn't just for you and your preaching and what God is doing in your life, I would not come, because the people who are here, they're not driven, they don't care about God, they're not going anywhere. Some of them are rude. I don't like how they don't honor you, and people had so much to say, and that's what broke me, guys. They had people, I did not say anything to them, but people would come and they would see, these people don't want to worship, these people don't want to do anything. You can see it on their faces, and the Spirit of the Lord was not really there. And so visitors kept saying to me, if it was not you, I would not come. And so I kept saying, how can we really grow like this? How can we move forward like this? But the main reason why I left, I was hurting. Sunday after Sunday, I would come hoping to preach, passionate to preach despite everything. I would just preach and love them still, but I kept showing up and all I could do was just cry. My health was being affected. That's why I really had to stop. My health was being affected really badly. I can't die, leave my children so young. I have a life to live. And the second thing was I was hurting inside and I was broken inside, and I did not want to be bitter. That was the main thing. I didn't want to be bitter. I didn't want to become demonized. I didn't want to be a bitter preacher. I didn't want to be angry. I didn't want to find myself in a state that was not where God wanted me to be. And so I chose to just leave before I got to that point where, I was not in the will of God anymore. I preferred to leave than to actually stay and become bitter. And so I kept thinking, why are these people, like this? There's no help. There's, I don't know. So, I didn't want to be bitter against anybody. So I just left before I got bitter. And, I was just hurting. I was never bitter, but I was hurting really bad. Depression, really bad. And so it took me several months. I've wanted to share this for a long time, but I had to truly take some time to sit and allow God to work on me. So, I realized that, possibly I was just in the wrong region. Kingston is just going tremendous. Kingston is just blooming, growing. The Spirit of the Lord is truly moving. I've had a lot of time to really, pray, spend time in true quality prayers, and, just intercede. I've been praying for the church in general over these couple of months, and God has just been showing me the level of dysfunction in the church, how prophets have messed up, and, what would have happened to me had I continued where my health is concerned, and spiritually where I was concerned as well. And I've just had time to learn in general that a prophet is never honored in his own country. And as far as I'm concerned, I would never do anything in Montego Bay again. Not because I'm hurt. I'm not hurt anymore. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm anything at all. But I just don't have anything to offer where Montego Bay is concerned. And I'm just now located in Kingston. I'm just doing whatever I'm doing on that side of town where ministry is concerned. So I will never do anything in this side of town again unless God truly comes and say, hey, do it. If God says so, I will. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm out of, I've just relocated. I'm just not Montego Bay right now. So that's that. But out of everything I've gone through, I've shared with you guys just to teach you, just to share with you that as a prophet, you're going to have ups and downs. I've had to learn that I did not fail. I had people that were visiting the church from another church, and God bless their heart, because one and two of them really helped us financially and have encouraged us. I had people that were coming from another church that begged us, don't close the church. Can you come once per month? They begged us to continue to do ministry. They would come and they would worship. But the people that were from Elevation Center, you would basically not get anything from them, really, from most of them. I don't know if I can find somebody, but nothing you wouldn't get from them, right? And so we couldn't build with other people from other churches. And it was amazing that these people kept saying, we came because of you, we support you because of you, and believe what you can do, what you are gifted and called to do. And there were people that were saying, the people that come to your church that don't know what they have. These people that came every Sunday, they came every Sunday. They kept saying, your people from your church, they don't know who they have, they don't know the prophet that they have. And I would get it in Kingston. Just come to Kingston because, like, just a bunch of stuff. So, I took time to really pray and, know my worth, know what I deserve. Not that I deserve worship or praise or appreciation or anything, but I deserve to be in a space where people will at least worship God. Kingston will not be Kingston will have its own struggles. Wherever will have its own struggles. But what I'm saying is, I want to be in an atmosphere where, and this is me, my nature, the very core of my essence is worship and prayer, growth, not in numbers but growth spiritually as a person. Feed a man fish today, he's full for today, but teach him how to fish, he can feed himself for an entire lifetime. So I've grown in so many ways. I've overcome depression. I've just grown in numerous ways. We were building in the wrong area with the wrong people, and these things happen. And I learned that I didn't fail because we did our very best. So sometimes you'll have setbacks in life. Sometimes you're going to go through rejection. You don't just go through rejection, abandonment because you're young in your young part of your prophetic ministry. Even when you become mature, God is still going to prune you and break you down to nothing to build you again. So my vision still exists. The vision that God has given to me still exists. We're still going to build. I don't think I would ever build a church again. As a prophet of God, I've preached in every parish of this country, 14 parishes of this country, and I love preaching. I love showing people the way how to come to God, to encounter God, coming to a place of holiness and righteousness, preaching the gospel. But I don't think I would ever actually have a church again. I want to build a space where it's not just a church, it's a community. Where, if it's even one service per week or two services per week, and where I can teach the people the word, the foundational word of God. God is coming soon. We need to learn how to love him. He's a jealous God. We want to come to church, get blessing, get breakthrough, get prophecy, but we don't want to see God. We no longer have a church where people will come and throw the sermon outside or give the sermon 2 minutes and seek God for an hour, 2 hours. We're not doing that anymore. And so, God has given me so much perspective. I've sat in the literal eye of God in the realm of the spirit, and I've just seen the church through the lens of God. So, I just have a different approach. If you don't want to worship God or seek God or pray, Elevation Center is not for you. So, that's where I am. I'm still thinking, do I even launch out full in Kingston? Do I just leave the country altogether? There's a lot of things, I'm just praying and spending time with God about. But we're definitely in Kingston. If you want to worship with us on that side, we're definitely there. I'm staying there. I'm going back where I'm from. So that's where we are. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you. Alright guys, so I wanted to share this before I go. We really do not want to have any debt attached to our name or to Elevation Center. We have truly done everything that we could have, not of ourselves but through the help of the Holy Spirit, and we have just learned so much that I have shared with you guys, and so many more teachable things that I can share with you guys. And we want to move forward. We want to continue the work of God because He is doing an amazing and a wonderful thing, and I'm sure that there are people in Kingston, in many other parts of the world, that continue want to be blessed by what God is doing through our revival meetings, our teachings, and just so much more that we have to offer, because God is truly doing an amazing thing. So we will not stop, or we cannot stop because we were rejected by some, or because we were dishonored by some, or some just did not. I don't know what it was, but we want to continue, and so we need your help. So if you want to be of assistance to us, I do believe that we have created a GoFundMe page. It should be in the description box. Our PayPal is in the description box. I just make sure to get the correct figure quoted. We need to raise at least $5,000 to $5,500. That will cover everything that is owed in total, and just to help us get situated as we transition to continue the work that God is doing in Kingston. It's not a dollar over, it's not a dollar under. We're just being honest about where we are, and so we need your assistance. We were given a letter to go to the court by our landlord. We do not want to be involved in a court situation. We had one session. The first court hearing was on the 13th of May. That is already passed last month. We do not want to continue where this is concerned. So there's a certain amount that we have to be paying back, and we want to cover everything as much as we can to clear our name. So we need all the help, all the donation, just to help the ministry to move forward. So if you're blessed by your ministry, if you have been blessed by your ministry and you want to be a part of what God is doing as we move forward, we need your help. In time to come, we are going to need help to build that church. So if we're going to build, we're going to buy, whatever we're going to do. But until we get there, we know the Lord is gracious and He will help. So we want to take it one step at a time, just humbly, as best as we can. So we're asking humbly. The Bible says, ask and it shall be given. So I'm asking if you want to give $100, $50, $500, $1,000, $2,000, or if someone is out there that wants to bless us with the entire $5,500, we will be tremendously blessed, and I'm sure that God will bless you and multiply back onto you. But thank you guys so much for being a part of or for watching or supporting a Prophet's Diary. I'm Prophetess Shanique Beckford. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to share, be a blessing to someone else. If you have been through anything that I have, or you know a pastor that is going through what I have gone through, tell them to be encouraged. Pray for your pastor, honor your pastor, love your pastor, support the vision of God, and just love God in general. If you love God and you love the work of God, then you will love the vessel that He is using to do that work. So God bless you once again. Have a wonderful rest of day, a wonderful rest of the weekend. Join us tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. sharp for our virtual church on YouTube. Virtual church last week Sunday was amazing on YouTube. So join us tomorrow morning. All right. Bye.